Hey, welcome back to Know What's Cooking, where we're changing the world one recipe at a time with a splash of physics. Welcome to day one of the 2022 7-day sustainable food cooking challenge. I am so psyched you're here with me. Today we're going to make lentil tacos. And so this can maybe be broken into two components. First, we're going to talk about how to use lentils as a ground beef or a ground turkey replacement and why we might want to do that. And then secondly, we're going to use those lentils as a ground beef replacement in a taco recipe. Super simple. Let's dive right into the recipe. So in the interest of time, I've started with 5 cups of water that I have brought to a boil. I'm going to cook 1 pound of lentils. I'm going to add to that 5 cups of boiling water 1 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to add 1 pound of brown lentils that have been rinsed in water. And I'm going to give it a quick stirring, and I'm going to leave the burner on for about 1 minute. And that's just to give the lentils time to come up to this boiling point temperature. Okay, now once the lentils start to boil, I am simply going to put a lid on there and turn the burner off completely. And then I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. So while we're waiting for those to cook, let's take a minute to talk about lentils. Like, what the heck is a lentil? Because that's usually what my students ask me. So these are lentils. These are the most common lentils, which are brown lentils. They're usually purchased in this 1 pound bag. And so if you want to look at a brown lentil a little closer, they're these beautiful brown gems. And so the great thing about a lentil is that they're small, and so their cooking time is much lower than other dry beans like black beans or something. So they take a lot less time to cook. They come in all different sort of colors also and sizes. These are red lentils, which are really delicious. Also, we'll talk about those in other recipes to come. These are some green French lentils, which I've actually never cooked with before. I just found them. They look amazing. So I might give those a try also, but also sort of the brown lentil is my go-to. So we hear so often that we should shift our diets to a plant-based diet. And sometimes it's hard to know how to do that. I think lentils, especially lentils that are slightly undercooked, so they're not mushy, they still have a really good mouthfeel, like kind of chew similar to ground beef, is a fabulous ground beef replacement. But what we're doing here is what's called passive cooking. And the reason we can do that is because the water is really thermally sluggish. It has what we call a high specific heat. And that means that it holds a temperature for a very long period of time, even though it gives its energy to our environment as it's sitting here without any additional heat input. It drops in temperature very slowly. So over this 15 minutes it takes to passively cook these lentils, it won't drop in temperature much at all. The other advantage of passively cooking lentils is that we're not agitating them by rigorously boiling them. And so that keeps them intact, right? We don't have them sort of all falling apart. And so that actually also helps to look and taste and chew like ground beef. So if we look at the greenhouse gas emissions, the equivalent kilograms of carbon dioxide that's emitted in the growth and production and processing of these different protein options, we see that ground beef comes in at 8 kilograms of equivalent carbon dioxide. If we shift to lentils, we see that that drops down to 0.24, right? This dramatic reduction. And I applaud Clean Metrics for making this food carbon emission calculator free and available. I just encourage you to go there. It's kind of fun to play around with to get a better understanding of the emissions from our various food sources. We also can look at turkey. And so turkey comes in at about 2 kilograms of equivalent carbon dioxide emissions. So if you're not ready to go all the way to lentils, that's completely fine. Maybe add in half beef and half lentils, and over time increase the lentil and decrease the beef. The other advantage is that it's super cheap, costs $1 to $2 for a pound of lentils, and it's going to make about 3 pounds of equivalent ground beef in volume. And also they're a whole lot healthier. So it's a win for the environment. It's a win for us nutritionally. It's less expensive. And so it's definitely, I think, worth a try. All right, so our 15 minutes is up, and I'm just going to taste them. Depending on the size of the lentil and maybe where you live, your elevation, and therefore your boiling point temperature, the time may be slightly longer than 15 minutes. So I'm just going to give these a quick taste and see. Again, I'm just trying to see that there's nothing hard about them, but that they have kind of a little bit of resistance. They are perfect. We want to make sure we completely stop the cooking, because if we just drain the water, still the lentils at the bottom will cook longer and become a little bit mushy. And we do not want mushy lentils for this ground beef replacement. So I'm just going to use this little strainer, which I love, super easy to strain the water off the hot water and then rinse it with cold water a couple times again to stop the cooking process. I'm just going to drain off that boiling water. And then I'm going to add some cold water. Give that a little swirl to cool off and drain that. And I'm just going to do that one more time. All right, perfect. So now they've cooled down. Wide mouth pint jars are my go-to container in the kitchen for sure. And so we're just going to dish them out into these. And again, each of these will represent the volume of about a pound of ground beef. So whether you're using them in tacos, like what we're going to do, or maybe sloppy joe, stuffed peppers, shepherd's pie, anything you use ground beef for in its ground form, these will be a great stand-in for already. They kind of redefine fast food, right? Because you get home and you're kind of like not sure what you're going to have for dinner. And then you can have these ready. You can actually freeze these in these jars because there's no liquid in them. It literally takes like 2 minutes in a microwave to take them from frozen to ready to incorporate into your dishes. All right, perfect. So as you see, that 1 pound made 3 of these. I'm going to go ahead and use 1 of these to make our tacos, and the other 2 I'm just going to pop into the refrigerator if I'm going to use it soon, within a week, or a freezer if I think it's going to be longer than that. So you don't have to even think about these as ground beef replacements. Lentils are also a great way to add protein to so many of our meals, right? If you make a salad, you can throw it on top of a salad for some extra protein and fiber, also on a grain bowl, right? Once you have these like in the refrigerator ready, I think you'll reach for them very often. All right, it's time for the final step, just to add the seasoning so that we can make our taco. You definitely can buy pre-prepared taco seasoning mix. About 1 packet of this is the right amount for 1 jar. The only modification I would make is that this says to add 2/3 of a cup of water. I would only add about 1/4 of a cup of water, because in order to wait for that 2/3 of a cup to evaporate, we might sort of overcook the lentils and turn them mushy. Instead of using a packet, I'm going to mix together my own taco seasoning. So to mix together this taco seasoning, I'm just going to start with a teaspoon of onion powder. Actually, a diced onion would also be really delicious here. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of chili powder. Again, add more if you like it. That's the great thing about making your own, is you can adapt it to how spicy you like it or what flavors you really enjoy. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt to this, and also 1/2 teaspoon of cumin and 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. So you can see this comes together really quickly. In order to thicken it up a bit, I'm actually going to add also 1/2 teaspoon of cornstarch. I also could add a teaspoon of garlic powder, but I've decided to just add about 2 cloves of fresh garlic when I'm sauteing the lentils instead. All right, the skillet is already preheated. I am using my favorite cast iron skillet. I'll put a link in the notes here to a research project I did studying the thermodynamics of skillet material, especially for sustainability, and it ends up that the cast iron skillet is a fantastic choice. It is a great emitter. It has a lot of longevity, pretty low embodied energy to make it, and also it has a fairly low thermal conductivity, which actually makes it a really great choice. Okay, now one thing about when you're cooking lentils, don't be shy about adding some fat, right? So we're trying to replace beef with these lentils that don't have any fat. And so I'm putting a mixture of olive oil and butter in here. And then I'm adding my container of lentils. And also I'm going to add this seasoning mix that I prepared. In addition, I'm going to add a couple of cloves of garlic. This is no packaging garlic here. I'm just going to take the clove, cut it in half, put it cut side down in the garlic press, and then just add that straight to the skillet. Then the insides can just pop out. That's the skin and everything. And then we're going to do it to the other side of that. See all that fantastic garlic coming out of there. And now we're just going to add a little bit of water to help distribute the seasoning. So we put this about on a medium skillet and let it sit and hope to get some of those sort of crusty edges on the lentil before they cook too much and get too soft. Another thing I really like to add is a little touch of smoked paprika. A very little bit goes a long way, so I wouldn't add too much of that, but that helps give it a bit of a smoky flavor along with these great additional taco spices. All right, so this happens really quickly. I've let this sit on a medium burner for about 2 to 3 minutes, and we start to see some of these lentils are beginning to brown. I think that's about perfect. We want to make sure we don't overcook these. And so now I'm just going to turn the burner off and shift it off of the burner. All right, we're all done. We just get to assemble this now. I'm going to assemble it on a whole wheat shell. So again, thinking about moving into more whole grains, which is definitely both a dietary and planetary recommendation. Using a whole wheat tortilla shell would be great. My good friend has informed me that we should always be heating our tortillas before we're eating them, and she is completely right. So I stuck mine under a broiler for just 2 minutes, 1 minute on each side, and they're so much better. All right, so here I'm going to add my lentils. Nice strip down the middle. Oh, they smell so good. So if you're cooking with me, which I hope you are, I think your kitchen smells as amazing as my kitchen smells right now with all these delicious taco flavors. I'm going to add some sliced onion on there, a little bit of these cherry tomatoes, which are quartered. I'm going to put a little bit of spinach on there, a little more spinach. Red peppers, which is one of my favorite things in the world. I always overstuff my taco. And then I'm going to put a little bit of cheddar. I know I'm not done yet. I'm also going to put a dollop of sour cream on there. I would love an avocado, but the avocado I purchased is still very hard. So it's okay. I'll live. So there you have it. Amazing. How am I going to eat it? I don't know. Let's give it a try. All right, so clearly I should have chosen either a larger shell or put less stuff in it. This is a recurring problem for me. But anyway, so here is my stuffed taco with lentils. I'm going to give it a try. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed cooking lentil tacos and that you'll give it a try. I will see you tomorrow.